Evan Thomas, you've also wrote a great biography on Richard Nixon. While, of course, you say the word Nixon and immediately your mind is fixed on Watergate, what are some of the things that Joe Biden can learn from Richard Nixon?
Well, Nixon understood the world too. The greater world, that America had this role in the world that they couldn't give up. We had to work with other countries. We had to work with our allies. We had to work with our enemies. Nixon was an arch anti-communist who was able to deal with communists. Nixon personally negotiated the first ever arms control agreement in Moscow with the Soviet Union. He went there. He used his brilliant advisor, Henry Kissinger. They were on the same page, and they created this system of alliances, and they were willing to talk to our enemies, and they were always in the world. He never wanted to retreat, even though Nixon came from a Republican tradition of isolationism. He himself was an internationalist and understood that America had this huge role to play. Now, Walter's absolutely right that these old institutions need to be freshened up a little bit, if not changed. So it's not like we could just go back to that world that no longer exists. But the idea that America has a central role in the world, that's still true.
Hey, Walter, it's Willie. Good to see you this morning. I'm interested in that idea you put out just a second ago, which is guarding against too much establishment thinking as you look at the best and the brightest going into Vietnam from the people you write about in the book. How do you view that right now for Joe Biden as he's putting his foreign policy team together? Has to be a place, I guess, between old establishment thinking and whatever the team that Donald Trump has had in place for 4 years is, which is disruptive and inexperienced and in some ways unqualified. So what do you make of Joe Biden's team right now?
I think you need competence and you need some wisdom, and that's what somebody like Antony Blinken brings into the party. He is somebody who would be in the category of the wise man of previous generations he is today. And you see younger thinkers like a Jake Sullivan or even a Brian Dees coming in. I think the important thing is you don't want to have it be too insular. And do remember that it was the best and the brightest who came in and kind of stumbled us into Vietnam. The wise men, even though they were establishment, in 1967 and 68, they tell Lyndon Johnson, you know, we have to rethink. We have to think anew. We have to look outside of the box. This Vietnam program is misguided and is not going to work. So there's a difference between being the best and the brightest and being wise. And I do think that Joe Biden, in his bones, has the wisdom, and so do all the people I've seen so far around him. We have one of our Louisiana people who've just come into the administration, Linda Thompson Greenfield, who is a UN ambassador. She's somebody who's been career foreign service, but she brings a new voice and fresh perspective. So I think it's a nice mix.
Yeah. Hey, Evan, Walter was talking about thinking anew. You brought up Nixon going to China. Only Nixon could go to China. That is, of course, was the sort of the catchphrase around that for historians because he was such a fierce anti-communist. Domestically, also, Nixon, of course, gave us the EPA and moved in a direction that few people would have expected. The congressman elected in '46, I think it was, moving in a direction that Nixon moved. What are some of the areas where Joe Biden could move to surprise those that might be expecting more of the same old line thinking?
Well, right away, he's got to find things where there's common interest. He needs to establish some trust because right now there's no trust. He's got to find a way to get to Mitch McConnell if that's possible. There are a couple of moderate senators there. He's got to build some bridges right away with common ground, infrastructure, the obvious stuff, before you can try the new stuff, the chancy stuff. He's got to have to find a way to signal to the moderates and to the right that he's not in bed with the progressives, that he's not going to be a creature of the Democratic left. That's a tricky exercise because he needs the Democratic left too. He needs everybody. He needs the Big Tent.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.